Welcome to the Peew. As many of you already know, my co-host and longtime friend Michael Alig died of a drug overdose on either Christmas Eve or Christmas morning. It's really hard for me to put this into words, but I have received a lot of requests from people asking me to make some kind of statement about Michael, and I thought the best way to do it would be to record another episode of our show just so that I could talk to you about some of the events that occurred in the recent past and some of my feelings about what Michael did and what happened to him. I don't really know a lot of the details about the overdose. I only know what I've read in news accounts because I'm in California at my parents' house taking care of them. And I was spending the holidays here. And so at the time that this happened, I was already in California. So I can't really offer any insights on it. People have asked me about memorial services. I don't know about any memorial services. It seems like some people might be planning them, but I don't really know how, at a time when we're all supposed to be socially distant, there could even be a memorial service. And it's very possible that even if there were a memorial service and I were in New York, I might not go to it because of the social distancing. Just as I have not gone to other funerals for people who were close to me or my husband. So, how do we get here? It's a hard question to answer, but I'm going to try to. First, I just want to assure everybody that Michael's in peace now. I hope he continues to rest in peace. He didn't have peace when he was alive. He was a tormented person, and in recent years I felt that his anguish and pain was worse than ever. So it was very difficult to witness it. And I know now that all that pain is gone and that he's resting. So in that sense, I'm very relieved about it. I also want to remind everybody and send a message out to people who were friends with Angel Melendez, who I was friends with and who I knew for many years before his tragic death. I'm hoping that Michael's death will help those people who are still in pain from what happened to Angel get some kind of closure. I know Michael was a very polarizing figure. A lot of people had very negative feelings about him. And I don't blame those people for having negative feelings because Michael behaved horribly and the crime that he committed was very depraved, and there's really no making excuses for it. I forgave Michael for what he did because I felt that everybody needs to have a friend who will forgive you even if you do the most horrible thing imaginable. And it's pretty easy to argue that he did the most horrible thing imaginable. So I'm hoping that people who loved Angel can use this death as an opportunity to have closure and to just put all of this away and not feel the painful loss that they feel. Some of you might be surprised that Michael overdosed. It's not surprising to me that he overdosed on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day because a lot of overdoses and suicides occur on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. You can imagine my horror to find out that he had died at a time when I was with my family having traditional Christmas Eve Mexican food and fruit punch. He was snorting or shooting up heroin. It makes me really sad to think of that. I hope he wasn't alone. I'm not sure who he was with, but it's not a way to celebrate the holidays, and it just shows how alone and isolated and alienated he was. That was his way of observing a holiday that usually I would reserve for friends or for family. I'm also not surprised that he overdosed because I had seen his addiction get worse over the past 2 to 3 years. And I think that many of you who are watching the Peew prior to my departure from the Peew noticed it also. I mean, he visibly declined on the Peew. You could see that he wasn't necessarily as lucid or coherent in some of the final episodes. I would say in the last year that we did the Peew, which was 2018, it was pretty obvious that he was kind of spiraling down into something, right? I mean, I think some of you pointed out that he was nodding off on some of our episodes from 2017, which he probably was. And it was there for everybody to see. And I definitely saw it. And one of the reasons that I stopped doing the Peew with him in 2018, I guess it was the end of 2019 that I stopped doing the Peew. I stopped because it became really difficult to hang out with Michael and to see how sad he had become and how he lived in what I would say in squalor, and it was just not easy to see him like that, and I didn't want to see him like that. So I made the decision to stop doing the Peew with him and to stop hanging out with him. I still communicated with him through email and text messages, but even then I maybe only did that once a month or once every 6 weeks because I didn't want to be involved in all of his junkie insanity and drama. In recovery programs and counseling programs for people who have loved ones in addiction, you kind of have to detach yourself from the junkie or from the addict because emotionally it'll drag you down with them. And I couldn't really afford to do that. I have my own family, I have my own responsibilities, and I couldn't allow Michael's illness to take me down too. So there had to be a distance, and I didn't really want to have that distance, but it ended up being necessary. And it was basically an act of preservation for myself. And Michael probably didn't like it, and I'm sure it didn't help him. And it probably added to his isolation, but I mean, what could I do, Some of you might wonder why I didn't intervene when I saw that this was happening to him, but there's only so much intervention that you can do. I invited Michael to come live with me after he got out of prison, and I was hoping that by living with me, he could see that I had a full-time job, my husband had a full-time job, we were happy and successful, and I was hoping that that would be an inspiration to him to try to be happy and successful, to work a regular job, whatever that job was. But he didn't want to work. He didn't want to have like a normal job. And he chose another path, and that path is what led him back to using drugs. And it's hard for me to criticize that path because, obviously people associate me with drugs. I like to party, and I still do. But there is a difference between recreation and abuse. And for me, it's always about the recreation. And then when the 4 or 5 hours of recreation is done, then that's it. And you go back to your normal life. But Michael couldn't go back. He was that type of person that would just keep going and going and going, using and using. And that's addiction. And there was really no pulling him back from it. I wasn't in a position to do it. I tried not to enable him. Some people might think that the Peew was enabling him because it was giving him a platform, but I felt that having him do the Peew gave him some bit of hope, and it gave him something to look forward to and give him something to be proud about, because in the final 2 to 3 years of his life, he didn't really create or put out very much. So I thought it would give him a sense of purpose to do it. So that's one of the reasons why in 2017 we went back to doing the Peew. And, for a while I thought he was much better. It helped him. But then, I don't know, maybe after 6 months or definitely into 2018, he was already, whatever positive effect that the Peew had on him had worn off, and he was back into heavy drug use. It's hard, I feel a lot of sadness, obviously, because Michael was my friend before he became famous. I mean, we became friends in the mid 1980s. And so he wasn't the party monster. He wasn't the king of the club kids. And he was really a very smart and funny and creative and entertaining friend. And, I just had so many fond memories of things that we did together. It was only after we became really successful that then all the drugs started, and he wasn't able to pull himself out of that. And at a certain point, I stepped away from it around 94 when I thought it was becoming dangerous, and he just kept going, and that created a separation between us. And obviously it led to the tragedy with Angel, which I wasn't a part of, because by then I had been kind of alienated from him for about 2 years because of the drug use. But I feel very sad. I feel anger and hurt and resentment and frustration because I worked so hard to try to help him, and I wasn't able to help him. He wasn't able to help himself. And I think a lot of people who are the survivors of people that die from drug addiction, or if you have a close family member that suffers with addiction and who died, you'll feel the same feelings. You have all these conflicted feelings about sadness and anger and hurt and betrayal, because you wanted that person to get better and you tried your best to help them, but they couldn't pull themselves out. I know it's a temporary feeling for me. It'll go away because I'm proud of all the help and support that I gave him, and I know that I did the best that I could, and I did all that I could. And I think he recognized that. It just wasn't enough. Some of you are wondering what's going to happen to the Peew. There probably won't be any more co-hosts or normal episodes of the Peew. How could there be? I mean, Michael was the star of the Peew, so there really can't be a Peew without Michael. And in the future, I may post some episodes just of what I'm up to, the different creative things that I'm doing. Drusilla and I had made a video for New Year's Eve that we'll post in a couple of days. It's about nightclubbing in 2019. And, this I made prior to Michael's death because I thought it would be something fun to share with the Peew viewers. But I obviously didn't want to post that until I was able to post this video, which I guess is my final goodbye to Michael Alig. I'm very thankful to him for all the fun. Bye.